You're listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast with your host and bourbon-soaked storyteller, Juliette Miranda.
Hey there, y'all. It's Juliette Miranda. Welcome to episode 130 of the Unwritable Rant podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Studio, a lifestyle brand that makes premium headphones with studio-quality sound and classic Scandinavian design. Y'all, these headphones are the perfect combination of style and tech. Studio has both on-ear and in-ear headphones. Just head on over to studio.com, that's SUDIO.com, to see everything that they have available. And if you find something you like, you can get 15% off your purchase. Just use the code RANT during checkout. So today I have two stories for y'all about a counterfeit cowboy and a bowl full of carnage. And to get things started, I'm going to pour myself a glass of Stolen Spirits smoked whiskey. Cheers. Well, this is an odd whiskey. Stolen whiskey is a sourced 11-year corn whiskey. So Stolen then gets that whiskey and they age it a second time. This time in whiskey barrels with flame-toasted and smoked staves. Now that's the one thing that I really like about this whiskey. The smokiness is very natural and it's not overwhelming. However, this whiskey is way too sweet for my liking. It has just a syrupy sort of flavor. It kind of reminds me of rum. And then it's followed by a buttery, creamy sort of taste with a little bit of vanilla in it. Now, it doesn't taste bad, mind you. It really doesn't. This is a fine whiskey, if you happen to like when your whiskey tastes like s'mores. For me, I like something a little bit spicier. So I might try this whiskey in a mixed drink or something. Maybe that'll be interesting. I don't know. So I'm finding that one of the greatest things about getting older is the fact that I come to terms with a lot of realities about myself. I know that I'm a shitty loser. And I think I've mentioned this before, but man, do I suck at sports. So really, I know what my limitations are. Here's the thing, though. I don't think my guy does. I'm not saying that he's leaping off of tall buildings and expecting to fly. He just has a lot of confidence. And this, it kind of leads him to certain assumptions. And don't get me wrong, his assumptions often really work out well. Like the one time he decided he could make beef Wellington from scratch. And then, of course, he nails it on the first try. But then there are these other times when his assumptions don't exactly work out. Like when my guy announced that he could ride a horse. And here's the thing, y'all, I kind of blame myself for this one a little bit. Because under normal circumstances, there's no reason in the world why my guy would make such a random statement. But we were hanging out one evening and drinking bourbon, and we were watching the movie Tombstone, which I love. So I'm watching this, and I'm looking at Kurt Russell, and I might have made an offhand comment about liking the sight of him on a horse. And the next thing I know, my guy is claiming to be an expert horseman. Really, baby? My guy grew up on the south side of Chicago just like I did, and that's not exactly the Old West. So I have to admit, I was really skeptical. According to him, though, he once dated a girl who rode horses professionally, and he claimed that he spent a ton of time riding with her. I'll tell y'all, it is revelations like these that really make me love my guy. Because we've been together for years, and I had no idea that this little nugget was in his past. Not that I entirely believed him, of course. And that's why I have to preface my next comment to my guy, because, well, it was fueled by a bit of bourbon, and definitely just a tiny, tiny bit of skepticism and the thought that I might nail him. So I'd look at my guy and I say, baby, there are tons of horse farms around here. They're right down the road. Maybe we should go riding. And my guy, who is also fueled by bourbon, and that tiny, tiny bit of overconfidence, says, well, hey, let's do it. So we stare at each other for a few seconds. We're testing each other to see how committed we are to this completely lame idea. I'm sure he was thinking, this isn't going to happen. There's no way in hell my chick is getting on a horse. And that wasn't entirely convenient because I'm thinking, there's no way my guy is getting on a horse. Usually our drunken ideas vanish after a few hours of clarity, but every so often, one sticks. And it becomes a kind of relationship double dare that neither one of us can resist. So unfortunately, within about a week, my guy and I found ourselves driving to one of our local farms for a horseback riding lesson. And oh, I was not excited. Honestly, I was kind of hoping my guy would cave and suggest that we do something practical, like grabbing cheeseburgers or going shoe shopping. But he seemed weirdly excited about this little adventure. He's doing John Wayne impressions, and he's talking about how cool it's going to be on a horse again. And I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, who is this guy? Just the other day, he refused to go for a walk with me because he thought it would be too muddy outside. And now he's acting like Wyatt fucking Earp. We get to the farm for our lesson, and the first step is to get geared up in helmets and padding. Then they walk us through a couple of basic instructions and introduce us to our horses. Now, prior to this, I'm honest with everybody at that farm. The only thing I've ever ridden, and you can spare me the sex jokes, was a mechanical bull in Vegas. So I suggest that they give me whichever horse is next in line for the glue factory. I'm expecting them to walk out with some stumpy mule. But no, oh no. Out prances this magnificent brown horse who is aptly named Moonshine. And my first thought is, great. They gave me a horse named after something that's killed people. So they walk this thing outside and they position it next to me. And I am immediately panicked because, holy crap, that horse is big. You don't realize how goddamn huge horses are until you're standing next to one. This is an animal. Mankind invented things like trains and cars and whatever for the express purpose of staying the hell off the animals. So I'm not feeling real good about this. There's one guy holding this monster near its head, and then there's another by me who's fiddling with the stirrups, and I'm confident it's just a matter of seconds before that horse looks me right in the eye and just says, nope. And I half wished it would. I did. Because, God damn it, I don't want to do this. I've got my left foot in the stirrup, and I just can't make myself move. My guy, the expert, tries offering helpful advice, and he's saying things like, just push up, baby. Use your leg. Because it's that easy. My first attempt at just pushing up results in me kicking the horse smack in the haunch. And that thing turns and gives me a look like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It took me 2 more tries. But with a bit of a boost, I finally managed to fling my leg over that beast. And I'll tell you, I am testing the full limits of my spandex leggings. And finally, I land in that saddle with a colossal thump. Moonshine is not impressed. They get the reins and the stirrups all situated, and then it's my guy's turn to climb on his horse. It's about as big as mine is, and a darker brown, and its name is Namaste, which you would think describes a nice, chill kind of horse, and maybe it was back when they named it. But when that thing came barreling out of the barn sideways, no lie, it was running sideways. Everyone, even my lazy nag, just kind of takes a couple of steps back to make room for the crazy. The wrangler, or whatever it is you call the farm guy, he says, don't worry, the horse is just excited. With your experience, you won't have any trouble handling him. Right, there's that word again. Experience. That's a key word. And now my guy's real quiet right now. I'm figuring he's just recalling the instructions that we'd been given on how to approach his horse. But I have since learned a new little sweetheart of a detail about my guy. What he was really doing then was trying to figure out how many years it had been since he was last on a horse. Which is funny, because I never thought to ask that question when this whole thing came up. My guy's romances prior to me just sort of exist in a timeless fog. I know they're there, but they really don't have any bearing on our present. So to me, there's no real difference in someone he dated 15 or 30 years ago. Except in this situation. Because it would turn out that my guy was 12. 12 years old when he dated a professional horse rider. So I'm just going to have to call bullshit on that whole story. Because one, just how pro could she have been at 12? And two, how long could these two have dated? Judging by my guy's difficulty in getting on his horse, I'm going to go with 2 weeks. 2 weeks, approximately 32 years ago. Not that I knew this at the time. Mostly then, I was just confused as to why my expert horse rider guy was slumped over the saddle on his stomach like a sack of beans. He couldn't get on that thing to save his life. And he kept trying to laugh the whole struggle off. And he's saying, "Oh, gee, I'm just not as flexible as I once was." Of course, it probably didn't help that I kept yelling, "Just push up, baby! Use your leg!" Namaste was getting very annoyed by his attempts. So finally, the wrangler guy brings over a stair mount so that my guy can essentially walk up onto the horse. Namaste looks just as relieved as my guy does. And then the two of them amble off after the instructor as we're both led through a few guided circles. It is awkward as ass to be on a horse. For starters, it's constantly moving. Even when it's standing still, it's moving. And that freaked me out more than anything, because it was a constant reminder that despite the reins and the saddle and all the commands we were taught, that horse was in charge, not me. Or my guy, for that matter. Oh, he's wearing a brave face, but the man is bouncing more than a bad check. For whatever reason, he can't quite get his seat right. So as the horse circles the enclosure, my expert guy is messing around and trying to figure out his balance. As he does, the farm guy who is assigned to babysit us keeps saying, "Soften your legs." And that just serves to confuse both my guy and his horse. So I can't quite be sure what he did next. One minute, my guy is gripping the horse with his legs as if he wants to wrestle it to the ground, and the next minute, he's gone. Maybe my guy moved wrong. Maybe the horse got spooked. Maybe it was just sick of fucking around. But that thing shot out of that pen faster than green grass through a goose. It happened so quickly that even the farm people seem surprised. They look at the horse's muddy tracks and then back to the horse, which is now galloping wildly toward the far reaches of the enclosure. We've gone from tombstone to blazing saddles in a heartbeat. Everyone is yelling. My guy, the instructor, me. It's complete chaos. So the instructor runs after them, and then another guy hops onto a horse and he rides off, leaving me alone on Moonshine, who is so unconcerned about everything going on that he just leans down and starts munching on the grass. Meanwhile, my guy is hell-bent toward a fence. His horse appears to have every intention of jumping. And he is trying his hardest to stay on that thing. But he's bouncing around so much I can literally see the horizon between his ass and the saddle. The reins, which, let's face it, my guy never really knew what to do with in the first place, they're now balled in his fist. He's tugging and swearing, and all the while, that fence is fast approaching. It's clear my guy has two options: risk the jump or fall off. I can barely watch this insanity because I am confident that my guy is about to die. The ranch guys haven't caught up to him yet, and he has seconds, just seconds to make his decision. Fall off it is. He kicks his feet out of the stirrups. Then he drops the reins and he pushes himself off to one side, and I'll tell you, it was his most graceful move all day. And then down he goes, tumbling like a gutter ball toward the fence. And then all I can see is horse. The rider has caught up to Namaste and wrangled her under control. So the two horses are slowing down, while my guy, I'm sure, is now a ditch vegetable. But then, just as I'm about to check on his life insurance policy, he jumps up from the ground with his arms in the air, and I swear to God, even from my vantage, I heard him yell, "Ta-da!" That's my guy. I'm so excited that he's okay that I start cheering. And like a dumbass, I forget entirely that I'm sitting on a goddamn horse. I make a move to run to my guy, only I get my foot caught up in the stirrup, and I fall right off my own horse, ass first, into a pool of mud. Moonshine just nudged me a couple of times to make sure I was still alive, and then he just returns to his grass. I'm down there in the mud, and I'm dirty and wet, and I see my guy striding toward me without a single scratch on him, whereas I'm looking like something pried out of a tractor tread. Damn it. Well, he reaches down and he pulls me up, and I had to admit, at that moment right there, counterfeit or not, my guy made a hell of a cowboy. Cheers, y'all. So, y'all, it's been about a month or so since I have been wearing my new studio headphones while recording, and I gotta say, I am in love with these things. They fit great, they sound great, and you know what? They look really cute when I wear them, which is obviously my priority. So check out everything that Studio's got available. They have on-ear and in-ear headphones, and you'll love them. Go to studio.com, that's SUDIO.com, and remember that you can get 15% off your purchase when you use the code RANT at checkout. So as a random postscript to that first story, I will say that my guy and I did not get back on our horses, and we have no intention of ever doing so. I'm okay with that. I really am. Because believe me, there are some things in this world you only need to do once, regardless of how they turn out. I kind of feel that way about roller coasters. They're just not my thing, and I've been on a roller coaster, so I know, for me personally, it sucks. But this is not a story about roller coasters. It's a story about chickens. Or, more specifically, chicken feet. That's not something you really think about, right? I mean, Lord knows, I've never spent a whole lot of time considering the feet of chicken. But all that changed after my guy and I visited Chicago's Chinatown. It's tucked into the south side of Chicago, which really isn't saying a whole lot because getting there requires driving through several 7 o'clock news towns. You know, the ones that are known more for their murder rates than their Tree City, USA status. That's why we only go in the afternoon. Safety and sunlight and all that. And Chinatown itself is safe enough. It takes up about 30 blocks or so, and it's got all the cultural landmarks and temples, and a lot of seriously cool stores and restaurants. It's great for wandering around, but honestly, when we go, our main destination is dim sum. Now, there are dozens upon dozens of places to choose from, but on this particular trip, the place I want to visit is not listed in the Chamber of Commerce guide. Because I don't want the crappy tourist noodles and egg rolls you find off the main street. I want the good stuff. A bunch of internet sleuthing and a referral revealed a very specific restaurant that's specialized in authentic food and atmosphere. Now, this is definitely a deliberate destination. It's the kind of restaurant you need to know about in advance because you sure as hell are not going to find it from the street. And even with an address, this place is not easy to find. For starters, it's located on the second floor of a warehouse. Only you don't go in through the warehouse. My guy and I made that mistake. We had been pacing up and down the street looking for any sign that looked vaguely discernible between all the dragons and happy cats, when I spotted the symbol for the restaurant on a second-floor window. So like a couple of complete dingbat tourists, we opened the main door to the warehouse. We're expecting to see a hostess stand, or at the very least an arrow pointing up. And instead, we stumble straight into a scene from Big Trouble in Little China. And as we do, everything in the room stops. Guys unloading boxes stare at us. A forklift in the back just stops. And the room is silent. Had the 3 storms or Lo Pan materialized in front of us, I would not have been surprised. Because not only were my guy and I glaringly out of place, we were also clearly trespassing. I squawk out the name of the restaurant, completely butchering it in the process. And the guy closest to us just shakes his head, and he points to a brightly lit dragon-themed dim sum place across the street. Well, now it's my turn to shake my head because no, that is definitely not where we want to go. So I say the name of the restaurant again. This guy gives his coworkers a sideways glance, and they kind of shrug at him. And the motion is so subtle. I can't tell if they're resigning themselves to revealing their secret restaurant, or if they genuinely want to discourage us from going. So I say the name one more time. And finally, it takes. The head shaker walks us out to an alley, points to a suspicious side door, and then he leaves us there to wonder just what we've gotten ourselves into. Even though this is my bright idea, I'm hesitant to go in. What if the door doesn't open to a world of culinary delights? I mean, what if it's the gateway to 18 layers of tongue-ripping Chinese hell? Clearly, I've seen too many movies. So my guy takes the lead, and he pulls the door open. A small sign we cannot read points up a stairway. And this is one of those really dark and narrow stairways, and it totally smells like chicken fat. But at the top, we are greeted by the entrance to a gorgeous dim sum restaurant. It immediately feels as though we have left Chicago. I mean, for one thing, my guy and I are the clear minority here, and we are literally the only ones who speak English. But we're welcomed in and given a really nice table near the window. A pot of tea is brought over, but there are no menus. Instead, the hostess motions to a fleet of carts that are being pushed around the room. Oh, y'all, it was heavenly. Every cart had a different wonder in it. Sweet, savory, and at any time you could just motion to whatever looked good and be served a small plate of, holy crap, the most insanely delicious food ever. I'd love to be able to tell you what all we ate, but I have no idea. We would occasionally ask, but the best they could do was point us toward a picture on the front of the cart. And after an hour of decadent eating, we really should have stopped. We should have known that our happy fortune had hit its zenith. But I am nothing if not a hedonist, and if an hour of eating is great, then 2 hours is sure to be spectacular. So when a cart rolls by with a bright orange dish full of what, from a distance, looked like vegetables, I pointed. The cart server looks confused, so I point again. I don't know what we're missing in translation here. There's a funky orange dish of food in that cart, and damn it, I want it. Give it to me, please. The server shakes his head, and he says something that sounds vaguely like, "Not for you." Oh, really? If it's food, it's for me. So now my guy gets involved, and he's all, "What is it? Why can't we have it?" And the server says something along the lines of, "Homemade sauce." What's wrong with that? Homemade sauce sounds delightful. Now, I don't even care what the dish is. I just want it because I've been told I can't have it. So I point a little bit more vigorously. Everyone in the room is now watching our culinary standoff. The server shoots a look to the hostess, who is just as skilled in the art of shrugging as those guys downstairs, and she just kind of motions for him to serve us, as in, they asked for it. He opens the top of his heated cart, and out wafts the weirdest scent I have ever inhaled. It's not that it's unappetizing. It's just amplified. And out comes a small bowl containing a tangled mess of neon orange and yellow. And as he places this carnage in front of me, I realize what it is. Chicken feet. Oh yeah, I had just been served a bowl full of chicken feet. They are lumpy and thin and dotted with these tiny callus-like black beans. And I have no idea what to do with them. You don't just dive into a bowl of chicken feet like you would a plate of nachos. You have to poke at it a little bit first. My guy and I both grab our chopsticks and we start jabbing at it as if we're expecting these feet to kick back. And throughout the room, there are these suppressed little giggles as people watch us with the feet. No one thinks we're going to eat them. I've eaten a lot of crazy things. I've had brain and blood sausage, rattlesnake and gator, and God knows I love pancreas. But chicken feet? My guy is doing his best to suppress a gag. But he's curious. I can see he's very, very curious. And so am I. So I say, come on, baby. You know you want a foot. I'm sorry, that's just the wacky. I'm thinking about sitting there with this bowl of chicken feet between us, and I'm cracking myself up because it was so disgusting. We both reach our chopsticks into the bowl, and we pull out these scraggly-looking feet. And we raise them up, and we toast, which was really more like a leggy high five. And then we taste. Oh, it's not like a drumstick. Nope. There's no meat to speak of. It's all thick skin, bone, and, oh God, some weird gelatinous substance that gets caught up in my teeth like a slug. I keep pulling and sucking on it. It's like a stale gummy bear made from rancid Campbell's soup. My guy, meanwhile, is gnawing on a toe bone like a cannibal. His eyes are watering and a thin stream of orange mucus is just dripping from his chopstick. He finally gives up chewing, just spits the whole mess into a napkin. Me, I'm a trooper. I managed to slurp the remains of the skin down, kind of like the worm in a bottle of tequila. And the whole room erupts in applause. And it's clear they're all thinking, silly tourists. Well, my guy and I are still trying to flush the taste of neon orange foot out of our mouth when the hostess stops by our table to hand us a check. I'm not quite done yet. I make the universal sign indicating a shot of booze, which she immediately understands, thank God, and brings me a small cup of something that is delightfully clear. I don't know what it was, but I can tell you this much. It sure as hell tasted better than those damn chicken feet. Well, y'all, that is enough out of me for this week. Thanks so much for listening to the Unwritable Rant podcast. Head on over to theunwritablerant.com if you want to check out back episodes of the show, or if you want to find your way into our merch store. Those Unwritable Rant flasks are available and they are killer. And remember, for every flask that we sell, we're donating $5 to Stomp Out Bullying. I'm going to go knock back some more bourbon and work on my bourbon-soaked stories for next week, y'all. I hope you have a great week. Cheers.
Go to theunwritablerant.com and sign up to get early access to interviews and new videos. And don't forget to connect with Juliette on Twitter @MorningNeurosis.
Girl, you was pretty as a Sunday morning, standing on the corner at Carondelet. What you say we make our way up to Bourbon, a couple hurricanes and a hand grenade, and get blown away. Let the chips fall where they may. If it's all the same, what you say, bon ton, hey, pretty mama, I can smell the gumbo. Sweetest taste of honeysuckle on my lips. Good God Almighty, I can hear the trombone. Every heart to beat to a rhythm like this. Come a little closer, honey, let me hold you. Nothing tastes better than a bourbon kiss. You can be the flower on my magnolia. Every heart to a rhythm